Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. It's National Jacques Cousteau Day, Tony. Are you an ocean guy?
I'm Tony Kornheiser. Oh, yeah. I love to be gasping for air around things that are trying to eat me. Sure, love the ocean.
Okay.
No.
Let's have full disclosure. You live partially at the ocean. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I like to look at the ocean. I don't like to be in the ocean.
I hear you on
big difference.
that.
Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the Knicks get shut down by 3 teams. The U.S. men get drubbed by Switzerland. And Brandel Chambly joins us for 5 good minutes. But we begin today with tonight's Game 3 of the NBA Finals. The series has moved to Indiana. The first 2 games of the series were dominated through 3 quarters by Oklahoma City. In Game 1, Indiana bounced back and won on a dramatic shot by Tyrese Halliburton. In Game 2, Oklahoma City did not take its foot off the gas. Wilbon, do you expect the Pacers to win Game 3 at home?
Yeah, Tony, I think I do. And people have to understand, and they don't, because they are now tied a couple of generations worth to meaningless numbers, and they don't look at the ebb and flow of athletic competition. And it goes back and forth. And sometimes there are wild swings back and forth. You can go back to Wilt and Russell. And even their series didn't always swing wildly because Russell won them. But then Bird and Magic, and there were series where Michael Jordan would win the series, but the up 3-0 against Seattle, they would give up 2. And you have this all the time in a series of games in all the sports. And basketball is even more notable, I think, and it's easy to achieve because so few people control the action, Mr. Halliburton. I believe he will bounce back. I believe his coach, Rick Carlisle, who has been like a wizard, will help him bounce back. I believe human nature will lead Oklahoma City to, in some ways, say, we got this tonight, except you don't exactly have it just yet. And I think all of that will wind up with some close and probably crazy dramatic Pacer victory at home. I think that, that's what I think.
We disagree. I do not think Indiana will win tonight. And I somehow find myself believing that Game 3 is going to be a critical game in this series. I've watched Oklahoma City basically dismantle Indiana through 36 minutes of Game 1 and through 36 minutes of Game 2. And I give Indiana all the credit in the world for winning Game 1. But, Mike, what I've seen indicates to me that Oklahoma City has figured out Indiana more than Indiana has figured out Oklahoma City. And I could be wrong about this. I could be. But I think that Indiana derives everything and starts with Halliburton all the time. Yep. And he was held to 13 shots in Game 2. And Pascal Siakam was held to 11 shots in Game 2 by the best defense in the league. They have to shoot more. They have to score more. Going into this series, they had averaged 29 shots between them. I don't think that's a meaningless statistic, nor do I think this one is. Halliburton had this fantastic ratio of 9-to-1 assists to turnovers in the playoffs until Oklahoma City. Now in these 2 games, he's got 12 assists and 8 turnovers. That's 1.5-to-1. So again, I hope I'm wrong, but I think Oklahoma City has figured them out. I do.
Tony, I don't disagree with you in the main. I'm not picking the Pacers to win the series. I still have OKC winning the series. But tonight, and by the way, I know that Halliburton reportedly has some lower leg injury. I don't want to hear that. Yeah. On the anniversary of the flu game, I don't want to hear about a lower leg. Everybody's got something this time of year. I expect Halliburton will be great, whether they win or not. I think he will bounce back. Tom Thibodeau is starting to look like a difficult man to replace. Mark Stein and Shams, among others, are reporting that the Mavericks have turned down the Knicks' request to talk to Jason Kidd. And Shams reports that the Rockets have done the same with Ime Udoka and the T-Wolves with Chris Finch. Tone, what word would you use to describe the Knicks' search for a new head coach?
I would use the word arrogant. How dare the Knicks be arrogant enough to just think they can swoop in and get a coach who is, employed somewhere else? What do Udoka and Kidd and Finch have in common? They're employed by other teams, playoff teams. They're paid by other owners. So the Knicks feel what? Like we're New York and we're big and we're great, and so you're going to want to work for us, and why do we have to pay attention to rules? I don't think it works that way. This is sort of unbelievable to me, Mike, and as you know, I grew up a Knicks fan. But this is a team that won a championship for the last time 62 years ago. And they think that their name is such a big deal that everyone wants to coach there. Well, not everyone. Jay Wright didn't want to coach there. Mike, I think if they get one of these three guys and one of these three guys wants them, they're going to have to do it by trade. And this, they're not going to swoop in like a pack of birds. And this leads me to the thing I've said for the last 2 days about this story. Okay? Why would you want to go work for Dolan? Why? He just fired a guy who took his team to the conference finals for the first time in like over 20 years. And why would you work for a guy like Leon Rose who just let his former client go down the drain?
By the way, I love it that you made it 62 years, but it's been 52. I'm sure your friend Clyde Frazier, who often watches us, is saying, Tony,
okay,
you were there. Don't make it 62. 52 is long enough.
It feels like 62.
I'm sure it does.
It's like 62. I wish.
I'm not going to disagree with you on any of that. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to applaud you because your depiction of New York arrogance, I know it's confined to this one thing. That's the way most of us feel about New Yorkers all the damn time. They're so arrogant, they look at the world and say, well, yeah, you just want to be here. Yeah, that's what I think of you people all of my life, and it is more than 60 years. But I was so well done by you. I'd hug you if I was there. I got nothing to add to that because I think you slayed that just now. You killed it. Golf clap for the U.S. Open. Tone, you're right.
Thank you.
And they got to go to Plan B. You know they had a Plan B.
They do.
You know they got some Plan B. They do.
Of course. Let's turn to baseball and the intriguing possibility that Paul Skeens of Pittsburgh could win the National League Cy Young with a losing record. Skeens is 4-6 at the moment, but his ERA is 1.88, second in the National League to Kodai Senga of the Mets, and Skeens has the top whip and the top batting average against. Wilbon, could you see Skeens winning the Cy with a losing record?
Yeah, because over the last 20 years, Tony, as you and I have agonizingly talked about on this here show, we were writing columns about it slightly before that, people have won the Cy with like 11-10 and 13-10. The voters today, just like the two generations I, tried to rip earlier in this show already, of people who are obsessed with certain numbers. Well, one of them is not winning and losing. The voters today, they're not our age overwhelmingly. There might be a handful of people left. Winning and losing is secondary to them. They are impressed with numbers that show other things. And we were impressed. I've always been impressed with earned run average. Not as much as winning the damn game. And they're impressed with WAR, and they're impressed with whip, and they're impressed with things that were not used to judge Sandy Koufax and Bob Gibson. And those are the things I care about. But I don't vote. They vote now. I used to. And now, so yes, the answer is I believe now somebody's going to go 12-12. And Skeens is great. He deserves everything he gets. His team doesn't even try to come in with offensive players or change the philosophy. He's in purgatory. But yeah, a guy with a losing record is going to win the Cy. It's going to happen.
This is where being as old as we are doesn't really help us. Because the Cy Young now is not the Cy Young then. And by then, I mean that period of time where pitchers always went 9 and everybody won 20. In 1978, 4 guys in the American League won 20 or more games. Okay, so it was Jim Palmer, Ron Guidry, Mike Caldwell, and Dennis Eckersley. The last time 2 people in the majors won 20 games was 2019. Mike, last year, nobody won 20 games. Tarek Skubal, great pitcher, Chris Sale, they won 18 games, and they each won a Cy as a result. I'll give you this one number on Skeens, because I agree with you. Eventually, it's going to go to somebody. First of all, this team stinks. The Pirates don't hit. They score the second least runs in all of the majors. In his last 8 starts, Mike, he's given up 9 runs in 53 innings, and his record is 1-4. So what's he supposed to do? What's he supposed to do? Let's take a break. Coming up, the U.S. Open tees off tomorrow at Oakmont. Should we expect more of the same out of Scotty Scheffler? We're going to ask Randall Chambly of the Golf Channel.
Speaking of Pittsburgh, we're also asking why Rory has struggled so much after losing his touch with the driver. Don't fire up the Pirates as they come to Wrigley for 4 games starting tomorrow. Don't do that.
I'm just saying,
but
Mike,
he's going to go skis. He's going to go Barry Bonds. He's going to bail.
We're the last people on earth who believe in W's. Nobody cares about W's.
Check.
A PTI investigation has revealed that the U.S. Open tees off tomorrow at Oakmont in western Pennsylvania, which is where we find Golf Channel studio analyst Mr. Brandel Chambly. Brandel, let's start with this. Oakmont is so hard, and it is deliberately hard. Over the last 9 U.S. Opens, there are only 27 players in total finished under par. How does it look this time to you? And are you a fan of restoring the challenges of punishing U.S. Opens that you get at Oakmont?
Yeah, I think this might be the most pugnacious Oakmont that we've ever seen. You could go back to 2007 when it played firm and fast, but even when I go back and look at the video there, the rough here looks like it's denser, meaner, and more brutal. So, if this thing dries out, I've heard some people talking about winning scores of, it sounds crazy, but I've heard people talking about winning scores of double digits over par. I don't think it'd be that bad. But if you want to see 20 under par, you better turn the channel. And yes, of course, there should be some restoration to keep the punch into these golf courses. This course was built on the legacy of being pugnacious. You don't want this place sort of coddling players. And, when I came out on tour eons ago, every golfer kind of looked like me. They were 5'9", about 155 pounds. Now they all look like speed swimmers. They're 6'3", 185, and they hit the ball, forever. So you want some punch to the golf course, and Gil Hance did the restoration, and I think they've done it.
One of those guys you could be describing is Scotty Scheffler. And Tony and I play this game over the decades of, it's usually associated with Tiger. Who you got, Tiger or the field? And now it's become who you got, Scotty or the field. Brando, I'm taking the field still. Am I wrong? Does Scheffler's game set up that well for Oakmont?
Well, Tiger, even at his best, won about 40% of the time. Mind-boggling figures, because 3% will get you in the Hall of Fame. But the field was always the better bet. So, yes, the field's the better bet this week against Scotty Scheffler. Having said that, last time I looked at the odds, they were a little better than 3-1. They were approaching 2-1, which is certainly Tiger Woods' territory. But I think the question is, which 5 guys would you put in a bucket and as an aggregate to challenge Scotty Scheffler? I think this could be Scotty Scheffler's 2000 U.S. Open week. He could win by 10, 12, 15 shots. He's sneaking up on that. Last few tournaments, he's won by 8, he's won by 5. He's winning by multiple shots, and he's not exactly played his best. So the field's a better bet, but I wouldn't bet on any group of 5 players in the aggregate to beat Scotty Scheffler this week.
Let's move to another big name who's involved in his own little drama right now, and that would be Rory and his driver and the struggles with it. I mean, he won, and then the driver is like he's, some weekend player. Brandel, what's going on with that, and do you expect him to get it fixed by tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about how poorly Rory's been driving it. Imagine if Steph Curry played 4 or 5 games and couldn't make a 3. Well, he dribbles well, he does everything else well, but he doesn't make a 3. It sort of sets everything up, and it sets everything up for Rory. Rory's immensely talented in every other aspect of the game, but he's driven the ball just atrociously. And it's mind-boggling because he drove the ball so beautifully at Augusta National. And there's been people saying, wrongly, but nonetheless saying that he's the best driver of the golf ball over the last 3 or 4 years. That's not right. It's Scotty. But Rory's certainly one of the best. And it sets up his whole game. But he's just been driving it. He's been hitting around 40% of the fairways, making big numbers. But to me, it's not so much the form that's off as, to me, it's the focus. If you've heard what Rory's been saying in the media center about how it's hard to go out and practice 3 or 4 hours, that he doesn't have any clear goals to sort of aim at over the next 3 or 4 years. I was saying last night on the show, and look, Rory's everybody's favorite interview. He's loads of people's favorite golfer. I certainly love him. But if you're a coach and you had a quarterback saying that kind of stuff, you'd bench him. You're like, you've got no direction, and, you're going to let the team down without that kind of focus. So I understand it. If it were me, yeah, I'd want to take a victory lap for a year maybe. I don't know. But we don't tune into sports to watch people do normal things. We tune in to sports to have our minds blown. And we have a guy in Rory who, I was joking, he was put on this earth Like Michelangelo was put on this earth to carve stone. Rory was put on this earth to play golf. He's the most mind-blowing, gorgeous, lyrical golfer that we've seen in the last 20, 30 years outside of Tiger Woods. And to see him fall off this precipitously, it's tough to get your arms around.
We will get you out of here on this. I mean, Mike and I feel the same way about Rory. I mean, we thought once you win the Masters, you're going to win 6 or 8 more majors, like they're just going to roll out to you, and it hasn't worked. But I will say this, 8 of the 9 winners at the U.S. Open at Oakmont, 8 of the 9 are multiple major winners. That's impressive. What does it take? You've been there. You probably played Oakmont. What does it take to win at this golf course?
Yeah, everything is what it takes. So, everybody loves Augusta National for the rolling fairways and the difficulty of the greens. So if you imagine Augusta National with 30-yard wide fairways and 5-inch rough protecting the holes, that's kind of what you have here, because it's difficult to find another golf course with as much roll in the fairways, with as much undulation and speed on the greens. But you add more difficult bunkers here, more difficult rough, and that's kind of where you're at. So it's asking you for the hardest thing to do in golf, long and straight shots, and then high and soft iron shots. And then to keep your wits about you when you're facing oblivion. Because bunkers, shots are going to roll up under these lips of bunkers. Guys are going to get in these ditches out here, which are everywhere, and they got 18-inch fescue in it. So you're going to have to keep your wits about you. Dustin made 1 double bogey en route to winning here in 16. Onhill didn't make 1. To trespass around this place without making big numbers is exceedingly difficult. You got to be great, but you got to keep your wits about you.
Randall, great pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
A real pleasure talking to you both. Congratulations on a long, awesome career. Michael, I hope I see you back in Scottsdale. Tony, you should get there. It's a beautiful spot.
Amen.
You can catch more of Randall on Golf Channel's Golf Central Live from the U.S. Open starting at 7 Eastern. We'll take one last break, but still to come, Shohei's timeline for getting back on the mound could be moving up, Wilbon.
And what does the U.S. men's dismal loss to Switzerland last night mean for the team's future? You don't believe me when I tell you how great it is here, but you'll believe Brandel, hopefully. Hey, come on out.
I do. I've been there. I've been there. I just haven't had corn chowder at Phil's like you were talking about.
You can get the podcast on the ESPN app or Apple Podcasts. And now,
PTI. Tony and Mike have tonight's PTI bonus topic.
All right, Wilbon, who you got at the U.S. Open, Scottie Scheffler or the entire field?
The field, Tony, and this is fairly easy for me, even though Scheffler's been great. I'm not ready to install him just yet with Tiger and Jack. Forgive me, I'm not. I got to see more. And by the way, I'll be ready to tip my cap, as they say, if I see more. And this U.S. Open at Oakmont is going to be so torturous that if Scottie Scheffler comes through this, God bless him. I mean, seriously, I'm not even rooting against him, but I think there are other people. If you can drive the ball fairly accurately, all right, given that the rough is going to be like some monster out there, I got 3 names I'm going to give you, and I'm going to start with my man Colin Morikawa, who is second in driving accuracy. I'm going to give you Sepp Straka, who's 11th, and Russell Henley, who's 14th. I want to give you John Rahm. I'm just not sure that Rahm, playing on live, is tested week after week after week enough to the point where he's ready for this cauldron, in Western Pennsylvania. So I'm going to give you the other 3, but I'm taking the field.
Yeah, well, the smart bet is to take the field. The more interesting bet is if you could pick 4 people or 5 people, would you take those 5 people against the field? Look, you and I disagree right around the edges. I understand what you're saying about driving accuracy, but even the best drivers in the world, they don't put it on the short grass all the time. It always moves around. It always goes left to right. And the rough is so thick here and so penal that, to me, more important than accuracy is someone who's reasonably accurate but long. Scheffler is long. DeChambeau is long. Rahm is long. Rory seems to have lost his way, but he's long if he finds his way. Straka is the same thing. Because I'm thinking when you land in the rough, it's going to be easier to get out with a wedge because you're closer than to get out with a 7. That's the way you're going to flourish if you hit it long, but I don't even want to use the word flourish because I suspect that the winning score is going to be 1 under or even or something like that, and it's going to drive everybody crazy because it's really, really hard there. It is.
The removal of trees has driven a lot of people crazy. I think it's beautiful. I think Oakmont's even more beautiful now than before. I mean, you know, let's not get obsessed with trees. That's it. We're done. Back to you.